All right, welcome to another episode of Closing Staff Podcast. This is your host, Tradehold. I'm here with Distro as usual.
Hey, what's going on, guys? It's Distro. You know, your daily distro. You don't know if it's going to be a box full of good games or it's going to be a box full of t-shirts and socks, you know?
Yeah. So this time we don't have Cashwrap again. He's still under the weather. And, we're trying to be safe about it. So he decided not to come through with us. But we do have a special guest. We're going to call him FuncoLand.
Hey.
Just to make sure, not to be confused with Funko Pop.
Yeah,
so
we had to. Pops.
Yeah, right. I say he dropped that bomb right before we started.
Yeah, Funko Pops are trash. Fight me.
Yeah, right. Fight me.
I have a few, but I don't really don't.
Put away the Yamcha.
Yeah,
I'm just kidding.
I don't go out of my way to collect them. We know a few people who collect them that are just right now, especially during this time, they're trying to unload them.
Yeah. Exactly.
Oh, man,
exactly.
yeah.
I think people are starting to realize a lot of what they have right now is just a little overwhelming. Like I said, my personal hell is to be trapped with a bunch of them.
Yeah, it's true. It's like I had that moment where I realized, this needs to stop before it gets out of hand.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I think I have maybe something like 7 or 8 Funko Pops.
Yeah.
All mine are just of characters I actually like. Like, I don't go for a whole Dragon Ball collection. I have Gohan. And
you make me feel weird now. It's like, guess how many I have? Like,
you probably don't have as
it's
much.
It's not a crazy amount. But it's a modest amount.
Are you in double digits?
I'm in double digits.
That's
for
too
sure.
many.
Yeah. Yeah, right, yeah.
I'm like
I'm
you're
in double
probably not
digits
as bad
sure.
as Field Destroyer right now.
So guess how many do you think I may have?
68.
Well, you're close. You're close.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh,
So
okay.
69.
Is that 75?
No.
Is it
100?
90?
No.
Okay, 80.
I have 84.
Just
85.
tell us the number.
Yeah, right? Yeah. You're getting colder. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, you're still not as bad as.
But I'm
Field
saying
Destroyer.
that's not nearly as bad as, let's say, people that I know where it gets into like
Field Destroyer.
Yeah, right. You know, I cannot
her
confirm
husband,
her collection, but I've seen how bad it can get.
So.
Yeah.
But that being said, no. Yeah.
Anyways, we just get back on topic. So we have our special guest FuncoLand. We call him that because he actually started from FuncoLand before GameStop acquired them. So, I don't know. Did you ever shop at FuncoLand?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah?
That was my shop back in the day. You know, that's where I used to get I think way back. I think it was like N64 back when they still had some N64 stuff.
Yeah.
My Sega Dreamcast games, stuff like that when those first came out, and then I forget when FuncoLand really stopped because I used to go to the one that was right down the place where we used to live. It was like right down the way. It was like your local game store almost.
Yeah.
That you had FuncoLand. I think EB Games too was still around at that time.
Yeah.
So
KB store.
I'm just trying to think when did FuncoLand really go away? You know, like around what gen?
It was around 2001,
GameStop?
so it would have been around sixth generation of console gaming.
Yeah, because it kind of came out of nowhere. Where I'm just like, what happened to FuncoLand? Like it's gone. You know?
Yeah, that the whole FuncoLand transitioning to GameStop.com, and it was GameStop.com back in the day. The physical locations were during the .com boom of '99. Mm-hmm. The transition came in that Electronics Boutique was to purchase FuncoLand, merge Babbage's and Software Etc. into one company, thus creating GameStop.com. And this went on for about a year or two till they finally eventually dropped the .com because enough people told me it's stupid to have a physical location called .com.
It actually said on the store.
It literally said on the store.
Nice.
Yes,
and there's actually Arizona.
Yeah, we had a trip in Arizona, and
they actually said on one of the storefronts.
Yeah. Oh, and I flipped out. I flipped out because I've been saying this story for years that the physical locations were called .com, and when I seen one, I was like, "There, you see it? You see, I'm not crazy." It was literally called GameStop.com. So somebody at that Phoenix location didn't get the memo. They're supposed to pull down the .com part.
They didn't have a marketing team at that point that was good enough. Right?
I was gonna say it's been several years since then. It's been almost 2 decades.
Yeah,
so I think at that point they probably just did not
Yeah,
someone had to have checked up on him. Like, you got to take that down.
We should do a variant like closingstaff.com. Just it's to be the chase.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, so I'll tell you something that's kind of weird about me when it comes to FuncoLand. I've been in a FuncoLand maybe once or twice.
Really?
Because at that time we were poor, and so I didn't really go to too many like shopping trips of buying video games. In fact, the only game I got my very first game I got as a gift was Chrono Trigger from my oldest sister.
Did you say Corona Trigger?
Oh,
you're telling us that you're the reason for all this?
Corona Trigger? No. Squaresoft is the reason for all this. What are you talking about? I didn't name it. That was a good one. But yeah, I feel like that was a setup. Like that was like we didn't even talk about that. You were pretty quick on that.
Yeah, well, that's what I do.
That's why he's here.
But yeah, no. So I've only been into one like once or twice, and so Chrono Trigger was the first game I got as a gift, and we didn't even own a Super Nintendo. My brother had borrowed it, so I asked for it because I had played it from a friend's house. That one and Secret of Mana. During elementary school, and I just loved Chrono Trigger so much. I'm like, I want a copy of this game, even if I don't own a Super Nintendo. But anyways, well, how was it? How did you go about? Like, were you shopping at FuncoLand fairly often before you got a job there? Or?
So my love of video games goes all the way back until I was probably about maybe like 4 or 5 years old. That would have been like 1984, 85. So this is the Atari. Yeah, it's quite a ways back. My older sister came home from the flea market, and as a young child, I had no idea what exactly a flea market was. It sounds, exactly like it's like a place. Is it a market with fleas? Like I don't understand.
I didn't know what a flea market was.
And I didn't know what it was for the longest time. And then people would say swap meat. I was like, people go there and swap meat.
See, growing up, for me, it was La Pulga.
De la Pulga, yes, exactly. So she comes home one day and she has this big brown paper bag just full of stuff. And I ask her, I says, "What is that?" And she says, "Oh, this is an Atari." And what's an Atari? She's like, "It's a video game." Well, natural next question is, what's a video game? She's like, you know what? And she just hooked it up. And that was it. I started playing video games, and I had been stuck ever since. Now, I didn't get a Nintendo till much, much later in my life. I want to say it was around about 89, 90, and then the original NES came out in 1985. So I was all about video games at a young age. And I used to read GamePro magazine, Computer Gaming Monthly, Nintendo Power, you name it. Mm-hmm. Back then, there would be ads for video game companies in the magazines. And I would just thumb through them and like, oh, look at this. This one's cool. They had things like Game Dude. And then that's when I came across an ad for FuncoLand. And I used to actually mail order games. That's how it was done, kids, back in the day. You actually had to mail order games. You had to call somebody, get them on the line, tell them what you wanted to purchase, and if they had it in stock, you got to go get your parents' permission, get them on the line, do the whole credit card by phone type order, even a check. Sometimes my mom would mail out checks. Again, this was
back during like the infomercial.
This infomercial. Yeah, this is like late 80s, early 90s.
Although I didn't know you had to do that for games either.
Yeah, I want to say I started ordering from FuncoLand back in like 1989, 1990. It was probably around 90. I think I was about 10 or 11 years old. I was ordering. I used to order everything from FuncoLand. And it was so cool because it would get to you in about a week and you get this box, open up, just tons of great games, little papers in there. The first issue of Game Informer I had, which was a little, I think it was like 4 to 6 pages, looked like a little newspaper with Sonic the Hedgehog on it.
Nice.
Which was pretty cool. So that's how far back like me going to FuncoLand started. The first time I ever seen a physical location was around, I want to say about 95, and it was in my hometown, and it was near a shopping mall, just as they are now, just with the GameStops. You can go to a few places and you find FuncoLand, and it was really cool. So, that's how far back it goes, like 1990.
Did you tell them, be like, I need to work here? Like, I live FuncoLand.
So the funny thing is, the very first time I actually shopped at a physical store location, it was for my little brother. And it was his birthday, if I recall correctly. Mm-hmm. It was his birthday, and he wanted a game. And of course, you're a kid, like, can we go in the store? You had to convince your parents. My mom took us into FuncoLand, and the person working at the counter was somebody I actually used to go to school with, but was years younger than me. Oh, nice. Didn't really ever talk with him, but I recognized the face. And it was this nice little store, and I remember we bought some Game Boy games, and I just thought that was the coolest. And, I'm still a few years away from working myself, and I'm like, you know what, I do want to work there at some point in time. And really didn't think any much more about it. until years later.
Yeah, I think that's how it goes usually. You walk in there and you see someone that you know, or
Yeah.
you're familiar with somebody, and you realize, like, hey, the energy's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, you get the hookup, and you're just like, I can see myself here for a minute.
Yeah.
Next thing you know, the application's in, you're getting interviewed, and you're like, is this happening?
So, yeah, even as a young kid, I always had a predilection for selling. That was always a part of what I did as growing up. I mean, I used to sell, let me see how far back this goes. I think it was about third grade. It was third grade. Our teacher used to have a class-wide, I don't know what you call it. It was like a swap meet type thing where we all brought toys or things we didn't use at home anymore. And we would sell it, and we'd literally bring money to class. And I actually made money. I think that was like
hustling.
I was literally, okay, if you've ever seen the cartoon Recess, I was Hustler Kid.
Oh, yeah.
I was literally Hustler Kid. And I always just enjoyed I always enjoyed selling stuff and dealing with people and seeing people happy by providing the things that they wanted. And I remember, this is so funny, I remember in class, one of my friends was selling cigarettes that were made out of gum.
Oh, yeah.
I remember those, yeah.
But he would make them. And he was actually selling them. I think
he's all rolling cigarettes.
You literally rolling cigarettes out of gum. And you could do this. I mean, but then again, they had Big League Chew, and they still have that nowadays, but it's essentially chaw, can... But it's just the way it was. It was the 1980s, so it was totally acceptable. I remember bringing some toys, some G.I. Joes, He-Mans, Transformers, whatever I had, and selling them there, and just getting really hooked on selling stuff. And then as it carried on throughout the years, I eventually got myself a little fanny pack, and that's when they were kind of cool to wear back then. not lame like nowadays. Sorry to all the people out there who actually still wear fanny packs, but that's lame.
We just lost them. They just took it off. Turned off the podcast.
The whole two listeners just walked away. So I used to actually sell baseball cards, football cards. At one point, I sold marbles. I sold candy. I used to pre-pack like gummy bears, gummy worms, whatever I can get my M&Ms in little bags. I'd sell them for like 50 cents. And I eventually upgraded to comic books, doing Marvel cards like Fleer and Flare Ultras. Mm-hmm. I used to sell Jacks. Like, anytime I would go to, like, the pharmacy, I'd pick up an abundance of stuff because I was literally a little kid making money. I was always hustling. Mm-hmm. I would mow lawns. I used to do a lot of side work. I learned how to shampoo carpets. We had a carpet shampooer, and I would do stuff for the neighbors, and I was just always stacking money as a little kid. So that's kind of, lo and behold, why I ended up in life where I'm at now, running my own store.
And then it just kind of coincided one in one with your other passion, where it's like, now I have video games.
And now it's video games.
And it's like, and you're still doing, like you said, what you enjoy doing is satisfying people's, urge to game.
Yeah, and I love talking about games.
Yeah, giving them something that where they're like, oh shit. Like,
yes, exactly.
Like, I just finally found the game I've been looking for,
Exactly. And sometimes people don't realize there's certain games out there that they may not know about. I mean, as a kid, Nintendo had, 700 some odd games. And the only way you knew about games was through trading and letting people borrow stuff.
Yeah, or just going to your neighbor's house and just being like,
where'd you get that? Where'd you get that? What's that about? And then you would have to play it, and unless you were reading a video game magazine, there was no internet. Yeah. I mean, technically, yes, there was internet, but it was not the internet that you're thinking of today. It wasn't easily accessible. Yep. People had computers.
To IGN real quick and be
there was none of that stuff. There was no pictures. Everything was, what is it, MS-DOS?
Yeah.
So it was really, really archaic.
And here's another crazy thing about it. People that look through walkthroughs right now, there used to be a number you call to ask about like tips.
No, let's say that, game. Or even like sometimes like in certain magazines, like you would have like a section where it's just like, hey, pro tip on how to get past this area. Or like, did you know that if you go here, you'll find this item, or you'll do this?
But even then, that was like after, I would say like mid-90s or like early 90s?
I'd say probably like early 90s, mid-90s.
Early 90s,
yeah. It was early 90s, but before that,
it was even harder, You'd actually probably have to call somebody,
But, I mean, if you want to go far back to like the roots of it, internet and all that stuff, video games started in California. Yeah. And it was actually through the colleges, I believe through Stanford University, that one of the first like online internet computers doing gaming was between colleges. Mm-hmm. And they would play games and basically communicate, via keyboard typing stuff in and getting help that way and communicating, playing games in these big, billions and billions of dollars
worth of
equipment.
The first forums,
Yeah, exactly. It was a bunch of nerds at like Caltech, just like, hey, let's play Dungeons and Dragons online. And that's how far back it goes.
Original LAN party.
Yeah, the original LAN party. Yeah, you would have to call people up. Hey, man, I'm gonna play. You want to jump online and play some games? And that's how it was done.
Yeah, algorithms for rolling dices for that too. Didn't it?
Yeah.
It's like a whole different era.
People used to play chess back in the day, over the telephone or through the mail. It's like, I move here, here, and here.
Right. Yeah. We're playing via Morse code. Take it even further back. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah. Well, I know that they have international chess matches that they would do by mail too. Yeah, that was crazy.
It's a thing.
Mm-hmm. It is definitely a thing.
You imagine now trying to quickly play through a game and just back in the old days where it's like you can take months to finish a chess game.
Even now, you're seeing I forget what game I was playing beforehand. I think it was Call of Duty now. Mm-hmm. The latest one where they had that mode where now it's 50 versus 50, or even playing a Battlefield, and you're just like, oh shit, 64. You're just sitting here, 64 v 64. It's on just by sitting down and being able to play. Back in the day, you couldn't do any of that without having to, exactly like I said, know somebody, being able to network with somebody, having to call them up and being like, hey, you getting on right now?
Yep.
As opposed to me just sitting down and being like, nope, we have a full freaking server just full of people that are ready to go at any point. It's a trip.
Yeah, LAN parties are definitely something that you don't see much of anymore. And actually, considering the current situation that a lot of us are dealing with right now, a LAN party would actually be kind of cool. I guess depending if you got enough people and enough setups to pull it off.
Yes.
You can, because even with the whole social distance thing, you can set up a PC 6 feet between
away.
people. Yeah.
Have you seen that meme of the kid that's duct taped to the ceiling?
No.
And he's playing. I think they're playing WoW or something. When WoW was in its early stages.
There's a million.
It's like a giant LAN party, but there's just this one kid that's duct taped to the ceiling and he's playing. On this, because there's they're running out of space. Yeah, it's hilarious.
I've actually never got into World of Warcraft.
Me neither.
I never got into EverQuest. So EverQuest was a thing back in 99, 2000.
Ragnarok
Did you get into any other of the Blizzard games like StarCraft or any of that stuff?
I didn't get into anything PC related at all.
So you're mainly a console guy?
I was console, and so when I actually got a PC was shortly after I started working at FuncoLand. Started getting some paychecks in, and got a car. And then I bought a PC. The thing is, I knew nothing about PCs. I just heard PCs are the best way to game. So me, being young and naive and not knowing better, decided to walk into my local Circuit City. I don't know how many people actually out there still remember Circuit City, but Circuit City is what we had before Best Buy.
Yeah, Circuit City was the jam for a minute.
Yeah, it was. It was cool. I used to find some of the best deals later in life. You get really good deals at Circuit City.
Yeah,
that's the truth. Yeah,
but
I used to buy CDRs from Circuit City.
Yeah, well, I bought a compact Presario from Circuit City, and that was the worst thing apparently to game on. And I found this out many years later. And I think, oh geez, what did that computer cost me? It put me in so much debt too. I want to say I spent $4,400.
That sounds about right.
Yeah.
Okay.
For a computer that literally couldn't be upgraded or do crap. And the first game I ever got came with it was Moto Racer, which was actually, I enjoyed that quite a bit. And then I had Rainbow Six.
Was it the original Rainbow Six?
The original first, first Rainbow Six.
I told Tradehold about that game. That's probably one of the few games that I played on PC myself too. But that game is tight.
Yes. Well, you probably had some understanding of the way the games play. I didn't. So me going in from consoles, throughout my entire life to PC was such a drastic transition for me. And I remember playing it and just not understanding. I wasn't grasping it.
It took me like a good 3 or 4 days. I was just sitting there and just not knowing how to do anything.
Yeah, it took me.
This is how you get people to move.
Yeah, it took me about maybe 20 minutes till I got frustrated and quit and just never played it again.
Almost sounds like my own experience with the what's it called, Age of Empire. That's what we had on our first PC, and our PC I think was $5,000, and it was 500 megabytes. Yeah, I actually went back several years later. I want to say this might have been actually somewhere around 2005 to look for our old PC because we actually still had it in storage, and pulled it out to see how much space was in it. 500 megabytes, and I was just like, damn.
That's literally nothing.
I think that game for me was Thief. The first Thief on PC was one of those games where I was just played for I think 20-30 minutes, and I just was just F this.
Well, so you know what? I'll say I did learn how to play Age of Empire. One game I gave up on that I tried for hours, Prince of Persia, because I didn't know where to go. I had no clue where to go, and I was just like, all right, I'm done. Like, I can't.
Honestly, I think the first time I ever dealt with any kind of PC gaming was back when I was in grade school, and that would have been with
the Oregon Trail.
No. Even pre-Oregon Trail. Oregon Trail is what you got when I got to middle school. Grade school, we had Reader Rabbit. And Reader Rabbit was fun.
I was going to say, I played Oregon Trail when I was elementary school, and that was in school. Like, they actually had PC set up. So,
no, I was in 7th grade when the first time I played.
But that makes
Oregon
sense.
Trail.
We got down on Oregon Trail.
Yeah, the age difference, exactly. Yeah, no, Reader Rabbit was something I used to have a lot of fun with. One of my good friends growing up, he was one of the few people I knew actually had a computer at home. And so we would play. I didn't know how to do it. I just watch. And I would just do the Reader Rabbit, and it was basically Mad Libs. And so we use these funny stories. And when you're a kid, you do everything dumb. You put in like, oh, so and so went here and he found a blank, and then we'd write butt, and then this happened, and we would just write turd. And then after it's all said and done, you would print out your story. And he had one of those dot matrix printers, so it'd take like forever to print a story out. And we would just crack up laughing with all the butt and poop jokes that would come out from writing a story when you're 10 years old.
Yeah,
I mean, it's too expensive. But those are good times. Those are good times. We spent a lot of time on the computer playing Reader Rabbit. But yeah, Reader Rabbit is what I started with on PC. So there you go. That's OG right there.
I started with this game, quote unquote game, which was this was like kindergarten, if I remember right. And I do not know the name of this game. I can't find it. I tried to look for it like only months ago, and all I remember is it's basically a spelling game. And it had like a rainbow, and you were trying to like find out the word and type in the word, and every time you get it right, you get closer to the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow.
Did you ever get the gold? Yeah,
several times. I'm actually really good spelling. I'm really good at spelling, even as a kid. But I can't, for the life of me, remember the name of that game.
I honestly wouldn't doubt if it wasn't part of the Reader Rabbit series.
Probably right.
He was.
Little did you know that rabbit was
rabbit was everywhere.
I mean,
he had
I
a ton of
games.
Rabbit.
I remember, but I didn't. Yeah, you might be right though.
That's something interesting you should look into. Follow up on that. See if you actually can find it. It might be part of the Reader Rabbit.
So, are we starting to finally crack into like your the origins of Tradehold's gaming? This is Reader Rabbit. It's possible. And there from there he progressed to.
I would say the first video game, like console game I played was what was it, the Avengers with Hawkeye? I think that was what was it called, the Avengers?
Are you talking about
Nintendo?
On
Nintendo, yeah.
Oh yeah, it was the Avengers.
Yeah, the Avengers with Hawkeye.
Just the Avengers.
I remember I used to always play with it. No, it was with Hawkeye. I think I specifically remember that in the title. And because you could play, originally I think on an arcade you would play as Captain America, but the Nintendo version you can play as Hawkeye too. And it plays obviously quite differently, but I remember I was playing as Hawkeye.
Well, the arcade version was put out by Konami in the early 90s, and it was a 4-player arcade side-scroll beat-em-up. You could play Captain America, Hawkeye, Iron Man, and Vision. They were in that. Okay. I had the Adventures on NES. I can't remember about the subtext saying if it had Hawkeye or not, but Hawkeye was a playable character in that game. Very difficult game too. I remember that.
A lot of those, all those games were very difficult.
Yeah, most NES games.
They were relentless.
They were.
Is if you died, you died.
You died. There was no checkpoints. There was it was start over from the beginning.
It was either what would the kids say, get good.
Yeah, you literally got good, or it was going back to Blockbuster unfinished, basically.
But anyways, we gotta go back on topic. So when you started working at FuncoLand, how would you say was the environment what you expected, or was it quite different?
I started at FuncoLand back in 1997, so I was 17.
You're Final Fantasy 7.
Yeah, I was. Yeah, it was 1997 when I started there. The environment was way different. FuncoLand was based more on customer experience than it was on what it is now. The transition back then was such a stark contrast. It's honestly why I left. But the difference is that we actually had PlayStations, not like playing stations, but like test stations where you can try games. Basically, the whole premise of FuncoLand was try before you buy. Mm-hmm. They wanted to make sure that you got a game that you liked and that you went home with. Now, it was because of the policy of GameStop, FuncoLand back then there was no returns allowed unless it was defective. If you didn't like a game and you bought it and you went home with it, you can't exchange it. Now, it's different now because GameStop actually has where if you don't like something within 7 days, if it's pre-owned, you can bring it back, which is super cool. But back then, you literally had to try before you buy. Mm-hmm. And it could be a little bit hectic when you got a line of customers and they're like, oh, have you played this? Have you played that? And they'll have a lot of questions. And you're like, well, you can try before you buy, but it's not necessarily easy to execute, when you got a bunch of people waiting, especially during the holidays. It was just nutty. And so me, I started in 97. By the time I hit 99, I was the manager. The thing about FuncoLand, GameStop, is that you accelerate very fast up the ladder if you're competent, but the glass ceiling is very low. Mm-hmm. You get very far very quick, and you realize you're not going to go any further. You've reached the top.
We've talked about this. Like, it breaks morale once you realize you're on this plateau. That's it. That's it.
Yeah, that's it. You're not going any further. And I know people who've worked there 10 plus years, and I was at one point being groomed to become district lead. And this was back in 2001, and I realized just how unhappy I was at that point in time, because by this point, 2001, they had fully transitioned to GameStop. Here's something interesting. The last copy on the wall, the display copy, we were actually allowed to give a discount on. GameStop early on is like, no, last copy sells for the same price. We would either re-shrink them if they asked us to, but a lot of times I would just give everybody 10-15% off. And they were fine with that. And people were like, oh, yeah, that's cool. At least I'm getting a discount, for it because it's used on display. It's not technically played, but it has been opened. Mm-hmm. And I've never agreed with
that was a lot of people's argument. Yeah.
It was a lot of people's argument. And I get where their argument comes from, because as a consumer, if I would return an open item, it says, oh, I haven't played it, I can't return that open item.
Yeah.
it's literally, it's reverse logic. It's like, well, wait a minute, you can do that, but I can't. Well, technically they can't. It's their store. They can write whatever policy they want, and that's them. But I can tell you that working at FuncoLand was a much, much different vibe. We had regulars that would come in, hang out. Sometimes every store has one or two people who hang out all the time. It's we I don't want to say his name, but we had one guy that always hung out every day. Yeah, we had one guy that hang out all the time, and he was super cool. He was a young kid, and he would help us. He'd help, organize displays. Even at night, we helped wipe down counters, vacuum, stuff like that.
Oh, damn child labor.
Yeah, literally, we had that going on back then, and it was just such a more relaxing vibe. I was there for the launch of the Game Boy Advance. I was there for the launch of Pokemon Red and Blue. I was there for the launch of Pokemon Yellow. I was there for the launch of Grand Theft Auto 3. I was there for the launch of the PS2, the Dreamcast.
Oh, man,
I was through all the pivotal Xbox, GameCube. I was there through every single launch. I was managing the place by then, so I got to see the demand it put up. I think one of the craziest launches we had was the PlayStation 2 launch, and this is prior to me leaving. This is 01.
Yeah, because I remember when the PS2 came out. Yeah,
was huge, it was nuts. It was absolutely nuts. I think the MSRP on the thing back then was $299, but they would force you to buy a game with it.
It came with, or wasn't there some bundles where you can get it with like Gran Turismo 3 or like what were the games?
Oh no, Gran Turismo 3 was
PlayStation 1.
No, Gran Turismo 3 was PlayStation 2. You couldn't get it. No, you couldn't get it. It wasn't there. No, you had a few choices. You had Dead or Alive Hardcore, if you could find it. That was part 2. Kessen was one that actually showed the power of the PS2. Fantavision, if you guys ever wonder why there's so many copies of Fantavision out in the market, it's because of Circuit City. Circuit City would force you to buy Fantavision with your PS2, and everybody hated that stupid game and would immediately trade it into FuncoLand.
Nice.
I can't remember all the other titles that were out there, but I want to say there's like maybe 6 to 9 titles released at the PlayStation 2 launch. I was there... I want to say about 5 o'clock that morning, and we were going to open up early, I believe 8 a.m. And the line when I got to work, I mean, I'm pulling in at 4:30, and I'm seeing this line's already started. People are camping out. It was nuts. The news was talking about it the night before. Target was packed. Best Buy was packed. Everybody been camping out for days for the launch of the PS2. Back then, I don't really recall if you could pre-order systems, but I would assume you could. But it was a much different thing. Like you had to, I believe, put down a $50 to $75 deposit, and then people were just fighting over them. And again, you gotta bear in mind the time frame. There is no easy access to Amazon. eBay exists, but it's in its infancy. It's not developed to what it is today. So if you wanted something and you weren't there to get it,
You miss out.
You didn't get it.
It was a free-for-all.
It was a free-for-all. And this is where the whole midnight launch type stuff started. When it became a thing, it became kind of a rite of passage as a gamer to camp out, to hang out, to talk with other gamers, to huddle together because we're all going to get this great
it's a good
item.
feeling too.
It's a great feeling.
You see someone come up and they're trying to cut or something, everyone's just like,
no, back in the line. But then you get to share stories just as we are right now about, what we enjoy as gamers. And that morning, I remember once 8 o'clock hit, the rush comes in, and I had a whole pyramid of PS2s behind the counter, and we're just boom, boom, boom. We're selling them. We're selling controllers. We're selling memory. People didn't realize back then you needed a memory card.
Yeah.
Yep.
Memory cards were kind of
8 megabyte, you know?
Yeah,
like,
it was like, oh no, I'll just play the game. Like you can't save on a disc, because some people who had just transitioned from the Dreamcast, they didn't quite realize, like, I can't use my PlayStation 1 memory card. I ever have a memory card? Nope, it don't work. And so we would have people calling. The phone was ringing off the hook. Do you have PS2s? Cool. Can you hold one? No, we cannot hold one. And I remember one guy came in and he had bought 3 of them. And I watched him walk out the door, and he says, right now, PS2, anybody want this? $1,000 cash? And he sold both of them. Jeez. Both of them within moments, $1,000 each. I was like, good God. The demand for gaming is nuts.
Well, it's especially because the PS1, when it first came out, it was always the Dreamcast came out, the PS1 came out, and PS1 which obviously just took over.
Actually, you have the little bit reversed.
After? Yeah.
The Dreamcast came out in '99. The PlayStation 1 came out in 1995.
Yeah.
So gaming wasn't widely accepted at this point in time. Like it was a business, it was profitable, but it wasn't mainstream.
Yeah. Of course.
And people always thought gaming was kind of this low tier form of entertainment. Like the upper stuff is movies, music. Gaming is at the way bottom. But gamers always knew. We always knew that what we did had a lot of value. And then eventually, as now we are in 2020, people treat gaming so different. It's mainstream. It's weird if you don't have a gaming console or a PC or don't have some kind of knowledge. You can get spotted if you're a fake gamer. If your answer is what's your favorite game? And it's
Candy Crush.
Candy Crush.
Yeah.
That's a thing. It's okay, you're not a real. That's a different topic.
Yeah.
But 2001 when that PlayStation 2 launched,
it was the turning of the tide.
It was, but the vibe was great. And we're about to see this huge console war take off between them and Microsoft, the Xbox. Xbox was something new. It was almost like the second coming of Sega because the Dreamcast was so short-lived. And it sucks, too, because
it was very, very, very short-lived.
People loved the Dreamcast.
Yeah, Dreamcast was awesome.
And as somebody who deals in retro gaming now, the Dreamcast has come full circle. It's back at its peak.
Yeah, and it was especially me, when I basically became a store manager too as well through GameStop. That was my main thing, was I was still looking for, how can I get access to some Dreamcast games?
Oh, yeah.
And, some of those games were, some of the hardest ones to come through.
They were.
With good condition or anything.
When we get brand new stuff, it would just be so little coming in. I remember when Fatal Fury Mark of the Wolves came into the store, along with Last Blade 2. They launched, their price on them was $19.99. They were considered affordable gaming.
Yeah.
There's a lot of titles now that go for hundreds on the PlayStation 1. H-Tech was one putting them out. They were $10 titles for PS1 because every time you had a new game system come out, at least FuncoLand was very much on top of this. They would bring in a whole plethora of games that people could afford to retroactively purchase old systems. And every generation, even as GameStop does now, they flush out the last generation in the store. So right now, GameStop carries 7th and 8th generation of gaming, and eventually they're going to phase out that 7th gen as the next gen comes in later this year.
They are saying that the PS3 they're removing the
PS3?
messages.
Yes.
PS3 they're removing the messages feature in June.
Yes.
So you're no longer going to be able to send messages on the PS3.
Yeah. Oh, so all this stuff is going to get clearance out just as it always has. And I watched it happen with Dreamcast. I watched it happen with PlayStation 1. I watched Super Nintendo, 64, NES, Sega Genesis, Saturn.
Yeah, just get phased out.
Phased out.
Yeah.
Completely phased
sucks
out.
with the Saturn. Well, you know what? Was FuncoLand? FuncoLand was still in operation during the Saturn release.
Yes, it was.
So I'm actually curious. How did FuncoLand deal with Saturn? Because there were some places that didn't even accept
most places.
Saturns to sell because
Most
of what they
places,
did.
yeah, most places did not. Now, I actually have a little bit of an interesting story in this one. I remember. I couldn't tell you what day or what time of the year it was, but I just remember working the floor. And a customer came in, and it was a woman and a man, and they were somewhat in a desperate financial situation. And where I worked at, it's not like the the best and the brightest that typically come to you. You got to worry if you're being taken or hustled, because that's just the nature of where I grew up. And so when they came in, they're like, we have a whole bunch of video games. Our store closed down. We had a rental store, and we need to sell these because we're moving, and we don't have any money for gas and food and stuff like that. Do you guys pay cash for these? And I was like, what do you have? He says, well, we have a whole bunch of video games. I says, okay, well, you can bring them in. I'll see if we can do anything for it. And it was a bunch of Saturn. Mm-hmm. Stacks of Saturn. I want to say it was about 4 or 5 big boxes. I mean, Saturn games are big. They're big cases.
Yeah, the long box.
The long box. Yeah. I think about
like
10 to 12 inch tall by 5 inches across. They're big games. They take up a lot of shelf space. I
think they're smaller than 12 inch.
Yeah, I remember even trying to just put Saturn games on the walls. We didn't have enough space for them.
So you stop halfway through. You're like, fuck this.
Yeah. Well, here's the thing. Most places didn't. Just as Tradehold was saying, most places did not take them.
Yeah. Because it was badly marketed. And
it was poorly marketed. It did make a lot of money, and I had to tell them, I was like, we do take these in, but they don't bring a lot.
Yeah, they don't sell.
They don't sell. And I remember by the end of that transaction, they got it close to about $250, and it was in the form of a corporate check.
Wow.
That's how you got paid out. There was no cash.
Yeah.
You got paid in a corporate check, and then they had a receipt, and I was like, you'll get a corporate check within 7 to 10 business days. And that was literally all you can do. That's all you could do for anybody. And they took it. And I remember multiple copies of Dragon Force, Panzer Dragoon Saga.
Great games. Fantastic games. No,
yes.
That's not sarcasm, guys.
Yes.
Those are great games.
Multiple. I had so many copies of Virtua Fighter, Daytona, Virtua Cop, every rare title you could possibly think of. We had practically brand new copies traded in. Boxes of them. I remember running out of shelf space. Because each area of FuncoLand was designated to a particular platform. Mm-hmm. And we were only allowed to use the designated space for that specific platform. And we had the smallest, tiniest section for Saturn. I want to say it was about 3-foot shelves, and they gave us about 5 deep. So it was like 15 shelves at 3 feet across. That allowed me to put up 4 Saturn titles. Oh, damn. 4 Saturn titles per shelf. I remember constantly restocking that shelf, but we eventually moved through all of it. We didn't make a ton of money off of it, but it was nice to have a store that had a proper presentation. And that was something else I was really big on presentation, even to this day as a store owner now. Presentation's everything to me.
No, it really is.
So, marketing. Marketing was a big thing that FuncoLand pushed, but GameStop, when it first transitioned, the employees didn't know how to deal with. And my store that I was managing at the time, back in from 99 to 01, they were top of line of marketing. Everything that came in, I found a use for it. And most of the stuff, people, general managers come in, district managers come in and says, hey, where's your marketing at? And most managers would have their stuff thrown in the back there and open the box. They don't know what to do with it. But then again, they weren't trained with it.
Yeah.
I didn't get any kind of training. But I understood that, natural predilection, marketing is everything. So I would use up counter space. I would use up the wall space. I was, double-side taping, sticking boxes in a neat, a skewed form all across the walls. I was hanging things from the ceiling. Mm-hmm. So when anybody would walk into my store, and one day the general manager walked into my store, he's like, this is one of the most fantastic looking FuncoLands / GameStops I've ever been in. Mm-hmm. And he took pictures and he sent out to corporate. He's like, I want further mandate going forward. Every store needs to be on this level. Every store.
Right. Well, it's true too. Even running my store at that point, marketing was everything. Especially with the consumer, you really have to put it right in their face for them to know exactly what they want to buy or what's available.
Yes.
Because a lot of the times they'll just come in, and if your store is just bad layout.
Yeah.
You don't have any marketing.
Yeah.
They'll just do one of these views where they walk in, look at the wall, and they walk right out.
Well, no, we were actually at that time. I'm not sure how long this carried out, but if you weren't doing your marketing and you weren't pulling the numbers, your bonuses, all the pay raises and stuff, you got dinged for that. Basically, you got graded every time that manager walked in, an area manager, zone manager, whatever you want to call him. Every time he walked in, he was grading you. And if you weren't on top of your grades, your pay raise suffered.
I was about to say, you guys got raises?
Yeah. Oh, no. So here's the thing, too. Back then, we actually we got raises.
I was like, where's my bonus?
I had consistent raises at this time. Like I said, I was being groomed to be, the manager, the district manager. I was going to run, 4 stores. I was already training other managers for stores that exist now in that location when they were being built. And I technically, by the time I left, and what honestly caused me to leave at the very end was the fact that I was running 2 locations at once. There was a store that had the entire staff was terminated.
Ooh, nice.
The entire staff was terminated.
I've heard this story.
Yeah, it's pretty wild. So this is during the PlayStation 2 Dreamcast. Apparently the assistant manager, and what they call the third key at the time, which is, I guess you guys, what would you call it?
Yeah, the SGA, the key holders.
The key holders. So there's 3 key holders. So this person was the last in line. I couldn't tell you their names or male or female. I didn't know. I just know the entire store was terminated. And then it was put on me to go out and run this location while still managing my location. It was difficult. Yeah. And I remember working there for a month. And when, again, FuncoLand transitioned to GameStop, we had a lot of rules that we had to follow. One of those things is that you did a nightly inventory. You had to count every drawer. You had to make sure all the games are straight. That nothing was. Yeah, it was horrible. I don't know if GameStop kept that going or not, but it was the worst part about working at FuncoLand.
More or less the same thing as cat counts.
Yeah, more or less the same, but just not on the same strict every night kind of level.
Every night.
For us, it was, let's say, you'd have to do at least twice a week, depending on the cycle, if it was like holidays, or at least once a week, depending on what you have going on.
So you can imagine they expected us to wrap up all the counts, cash, doing the tills, everything within 30 minutes and be out. After that, you were not paid.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, and it was ridiculous.
Exactly what you mean.
And so I found myself coming home again when you're doing the whole store by yourself. You're trying to keep on top of what's going on with your other store. I was getting home 12 o'clock, 1 o'clock at night because I was working in the Bay Area and I live in the Valley. And so I was driving back on a regular basis for a month. And when you're 21, you're like, this is ridiculous.
Yeah, right. It's draining.
Yeah, it was draining. And by that time, I realized the glass ceiling was getting really close. And I was asking myself, do you really want to continue doing this? Does this make you happy? And I felt my passion for video games leaving me.
That's one of those things too. Working in just that environment, and you're losing morale at your workplace. Yes. You start looking at video games too, and you start just coming to getting sick. You're like, oh man,
yeah.
Because I know exactly what you mean. It took me about a year after I left for me to kind of
get back into
rehabilitate myself.
Yes, and that's
PTSD,
the thing.
Man.
That's the thing about working for GameStop. And I would tell anybody who ever had aspirations who would say, "Hey, I want to get a job at GameStop. It looks really fun." Well, let me educate you a little bit. It's not playing video games.
Yeah.
It's retail.
That's one of the reasons. That's actually one of the main things we talk about on this podcast very often.
Yeah, right. I tell people I talk about the games more than I actually got a chance to play.
Yeah. Because the first time anybody asks you and says, "Oh, what's it like? You just get to play video games all day and get paid?" Yeah, jackass. That's what I get to do. I get to play video games all day and get paid. Right? That's the whole GameStop premise. Let's just hire a bunch of gamers, pay them, and just hope they sell a game or two. Let them game. It's so ridiculous that some people actually do believe that. No, it's retail first and foremost, and that's customer service. Either you have the ability to have a thick skin and allow yourself to be in the service industry and continue to get people what they need and what they want and deal with all the, issues that arise with that whole thing and be able to do it well and do it consistently, you won't last long in that business. That's just the way it is. Some people handle retail real easy. I've had no issue with it. But my burnout for me was coming from the fact that I was in a relationship and my relationship was suffering. I had no kids at this time, but my relationship was suffering. I was getting home 1 o'clock in the morning, getting up at 8 o'clock in the morning, driving back out. I was making X amount of money every single month, no matter how much work I put in, because I was salary. And I had just woke up one day, it's like, I am just done. I am absolutely done with doing this any further. And I quit. And I was like, I don't want to go any more retail. And I remember throwing myself into warehouse work. Like, I couldn't be further away from it.
Yeah, keep me away from.
Couldn't be further away from it.
You know, yeah.
Couldn't be further away from it. But I can say without a doubt, though, the time I had working at FuncoLand was really fun. I actually did enjoy it. FuncoLand was a great place to work. We had great customers. We had good policies, and the customers really came first. Mm-hmm. The customers really came first, and the enjoyment of customers came first. The satisfaction of customers came first. It was when they transitioned to GameStop that it was this big company that had a lot of money. They were going to shake things up. They got to be profitable. You can only imagine the person sitting at the top of the GameStop ladder at that point in time is like, look, we're going to buy this company. We're going to unify. We're going to rebrand. We're going to make money, and this is how we're going to do it. He wanted to shake things up, and so everybody trickles down that pipe was like, dude, all these changes, they're so drastic. And for the people who have been, acclimated to a certain way of doing things on a daily basis, telling them, like, we're changing everything. That was a tough pill to swallow. Mm-hmm. And a lot of people that I know, like, after I left, followed suit. It just wasn't the same.
Yeah.
It was not the same
anymore. I was going to say, obviously you had heard that GameStop was acquiring FuncoLand. How did people react to that news? Like, how did you view GameStop before they acquired FuncoLand?
Well, it was technically Electronics Boutique who acquired FuncoLand. Electronics Boutique is the parent company. Babbage's Software Etc. is also just their company, just rebranded. GameStop was the name that was merged into. Customers nobody had any indication of what it was going to be like. We just knew they were going to get bigger and better, and that was the presumption. Personally, the store I worked at in the Valley was, we had a lot of friends who worked over at Software Etc., which at the time was our competition. Mm-hmm. But we actually had what we would call Wednesday night fights, and they would come over to our store because we had the arcade, try before you buy it setups, and we'd set up the Dreamcast, and we would play King of Fighters.
Oh, nice.
And everybody in my store was an SNK/Neo Geo King of Fighters fan. We lived, breathed, and died KOF.
Yeah, you guys was like, that's your jam, right?
That was our jam. Now,
Kusanagi, man.
Software Etc., the competition, they bled Street Fighter.
Okay,
They bled Street Fighter.
They're all Capcom people.
They're all Capcom, fanboys. So it was always this fun mix-up of rivalry and our store versus your store. And so we do this every Wednesday. And eventually, one of our regular customers is like, you know what, you guys should come over to my place, and we'll just have like a real big Wednesday night fights. And it became a thing for a long time.
Nice, yeah.
Where we would go to this guy's house, the Software Center guys, the FuncoLand guys, and we would battle it out on King of Fighters 98, which was, I believe, 99 on the Dreamcast, called the Slugfest. And then my personal favorite, and Tradehold's, his personal hell, Third Strike. But we would battle it out, and man, I could tell you, that was probably one of the most memorable, fun times I had in my youth. Mm-hmm. Oh, I miss those days. That was a lot of fun. But again, going back to your question, like, did anybody know what it was going to be like with GameStop taking her? We didn't. There was no way for you to know. GameStop was an entirely new thing.
It's like the Fire Nation attacked.
It was just like, they're going to come in, they're going to put money in, we're going to get bigger and better. We thought with a merger, two great companies merging as one, like, how can you not get better? And
so
then
there was more excitement.
There was definitely more excitement. Okay. People were so stoked for GameStop. And it just, within that first 6 months, you're like, this is not the company I want to work for.
Oh. Yeah, right.
Yeah, it's like the first big blow, I think, when it really set in, was like, we're removing all the try before you buy stations. I'm like, what?
Yeah, right.
I was like, but then what's going to be? They're like, we're going to put up more wall space for more games.
And you're like, I see what's going on here, right?
They're stripping this place down, and then employees were required to, act a certain way, be a certain way. Like, they were much more stringent. GameStop, I remember GameStop, that's right. GameStop was really stringent about, like, just how your mannerisms, your behavior.
They're very strict.
They're very strict by the book. FuncoLand was very laid back, chill, easy going. I remember, even for the Dreamcast launch that we had back in 99, I bought a ton of pizzas and sodas and all kinds of stuff. We had a big old launch party, and everybody showed up at midnight, and we had fun till 3 a.m. And it was good times. Nice. We were playing NFL 2K, eating pizza, being loud, listening to music. Mm-hmm. And the people, the district managers, they were like, that's cool. If you're making money, customers are happy, go for it.
That's actually the arguments now that, we talk about with Perfect Survey. We're just like, we're making money, so...
Well, it's even then, too, it's like, that was one of those things I learned from Perfect Survey, like, all of our big old launches, like, you gotta spend money to make money.
Yeah.
And even then, too, it's all about the environment. You want to be able to,
It's the environment.
We were the attorneys giving away free stuff, and they're like, wait, what did you do? You shrunk what out? And be like, yeah, but did you see how much money we made because of the event? Like, we hit our numbers and then some. Like, we made, like... so much profit just on people coming in, and those people are going to keep coming in.
Yeah, because they enjoy the store. And the thing about FuncoLand, the thing about GameStop is that even though the company, you may not agree with the policies, you meet some really great people who work there.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely really great people that you kind of like immediately connect with, like, I like that person a lot, and I want to support that store because I want to support them, making sure they're getting hours, make sure they're getting pay, because I really enjoy this place a lot. So it comes down to customer interaction, and that's something that's created by the sales associate, and the people that they deal with and their personality. It's a big thing that carries through. And again, as somebody who does retail, has been doing retail for a very, very long time, I love the fact that I can make those customer connections. My shop is not a big one. It's more intimate, very boutique style. But I get a lot of time to have one-on-one conversations, get to know my clientele, the types of games that they like, what fascinates them, and what keeps them continuing to game.
Yeah,
and I try to satisfy those needs.
Because even then, too, if they're coming in, they're not necessarily just, hey, I'm just here to buy something. They're here to just have a good time.
And some people are there just to buy. And I get that. And they don't want to have their time taken up. They're in and out. And that's fine. Let them go. And I think that's where GameStop kind of gets the bad rap. It's like, I want to go in. No, I don't want to reserve something. No, I don't want an extra warranty.
No, I don't
want just like, can you just let me buy this game and be on my way? There are those customers. Not every customer is the same. Totally understandable. But as GameStop, it's a company that has shareholders. They want to see profit. Well, how are you going to make profit?
You have to impress the board.
You have to impress the board. And the problem is just as the employees are, the upper management is. This is a revolving door. And I believe GameStop ranks as top 5 in the nation of employee turnaround.
Oh, that's true. No, I remember that too as well as far as turnover rate.
Yeah, I think we talked about that.
Yeah, they're up there.
But how many times do you think their policy changes?
All the time.
All the time. There's no consistency because they can't.
All the time,
They can't find the happy medium where it works. And this really goes into the fact that GameStop has kind of paved this way for themselves as being the company that they are versus the company that they were. And what I mean by that, people who haven't shopped at GameStop in a long time will come out and say, "Oh, I don't go there because they pay you nothing for trades."
Yeah.
Or the prices are too high.
Yeah, that's the biggest stigma right now. It's like, what are you going to give me, 50 cents for this?
50 cents? No! Honestly, I can tell you without a doubt, I personally enjoy GameStop quite a bit. I think they're a fantastic company.
As long as you're not working there.
Yeah. As long as you're not working there. You're not working there. Honestly, truthfully, I see some employees who really bust their butts.
Yeah. If you find a good shop, some people
they bust their butts. They bust their butts.
Hard.
They treat the store as if it were their own. They care about it.
Yeah.
And it shows. And then there's those stores that just don't care. You can tell by the employer, the way that they interact with folks, lack of eye contact, how they speak with you. If they know you, I used to try, way back when, know everybody first and last name. I was really good at knowing people first and last name. That's how solid my memory is. Now, if you were to ask me, I can't remember what I did 10 minutes ago. What are we doing again right now? What's this microphone in front of me? That's there. GameStop. What GameStop was is not what GameStop is. GameStop actually is a much better company today than it has been
in the last few years.
Now, I'm not going to agree with everything, and I'm sure some people are going to have a difference of opinion. But it is what it is. Just how you take it. Retail is retail at the end of the day. We're going to find a way to get our games, whether it be through Amazon, whether it be through eBay, local brick and mortar, swap meets, or mom and pop shops such as myself.
Yeah, right. Well, even it's interesting saying how you're saying everyone's really excited for when GameStop was going to start out.
Yeah.
Would you say it's closer to where it was like you guys thought it was going to be? Or do you think GameStop's never going to be what you guys envisioned it?
GameStop is never going to be what it's meant to be.
Yeah, because what you're saying is like it's a better spot now. But
let me re-answer that one. GameStop has the potential to be what consumers want it to be, and the only reason why I say that is because of Reggie. Reggie being brought on was no mistake. The people saying, "Oh, he's just a member of the board." Reggie jumped on a sinking ship.
Yeah, no, for real though.
Yeah.
And it wasn't done just out of coincidence. Reggie is there because he has the intention to turn this thing around.
Yeah.
And I believe if anybody can get people's respect and admiration and faith that it can be turned around, it is him.
My boy.
In all honesty, I mean, we talked about this the last recording with the Perfect Survey. There's a lot of things that people are already credit to Reggie that GameStop's already done, and they just were not aware of it because they don't care about what they ignore GameStop. All the deals that GameStop has given, we've talked about this. They have good deals right now.
They have amazing deals.
They've been having great deals for the last few years.
They have, but nobody gives them the chance.
Yeah, no one gives them the chance, and now that Reggie's on there, we were talking about,
now they're going to pay attention.
It's like, oh yeah, now they're doing the 48-hour return, even if you buy it new. That's been there for months.
That was because of Reggie.
That's been there for months, but everyone's like, oh, it's Reggie saving
It's because of Reggie.
Yeah.
No, it's not. It's public perception.
Yeah.
Public perception is everything. And nowadays, more so with things like platforms like Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, people feel the need to air their grievances publicly and consistently. But you get somebody like Reggie, which has positive public perception. Anything the man says is gold.
Yeah, no, I feel
people are going to listen to what this man has to say. He could literally say, "Guess what? We're doing a 5 for 5, or 5 for 20, or whatever you want it to be," and be like, "Oh my God, that's amazing! I love this deal. Thank you, Reggie." And it's something that's been active for the last 4 years. But it's because it came from Reggie's mouth, and again, that is public perception, and. One of my strongest arguments, and it's been for years, that GameStop, I like GameStop, I like their policies, I like the way that they conduct business. I think they're a fantastic company, but it's their name. Their name has a negative connotation with it that needs to go.
And then who do you associate GameStop with before? They didn't really have that friendly
figure.
face. Paul Raines, rest in peace, but
no one knows who
Paul Raines is, but they'd always bring that up. You go onto GameStop TV and everything like that, it's redundant. You have no real mascot. You got Buck the Bunny. You know what I mean? But who knows?
No one knows who Buck the Bunny is.
Yeah, who the hell knows who Buck the Bunny is? So, bringing in someone like Reggie, it's a true point where they can be like, oh, no, we got Reggie. And then Reggie can be like, oh, no, I'm here to help GameStop out. And now they have somebody they can put out there on the front lines in their marketing. Or even if, like you were saying, it's not necessarily something he came up with. It could be like, hey, we can go out there and have Reggie say it.
Yeah.
Because he feels safe. He's the Nintendo guy.
He's a Nintendo guy.
Everyone loves Nintendo.
The only person...
It's family friendly. It's all these different things,
Every company has somebody who represents them, and then people are going to love or hate, and Reggie is definitely one of those people that people love. And I believe it has a lot to do with his mentor, Satoru Iwata.
Yeah, for sure.
Iwata was... beloved.
Rest in peace.
Rest in peace. That man was... he was Nintendo. And I still think back to his speeches, even though he's corporate, even though he's a programmer, at the end of it all, at the end of the day, he's a gamer.
He loved games.
He loved games.
He loved games. Even listening to some of the things he'd go into, some meetings, and some people would take it the wrong way. It's just like, oh, this guy's just roasting my game. But then when it came down to the core of it, it's just like, no, it's because he saw so much potential there, and he knows, how much people care about it and how much the team cares, and he just wants it to be the best it can be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Going back to Reggie,
Reggie.
if you want to consider something, Reggie stepped in, I believe, around the... was it 6th generation? I think it was the 6th generation. It might have been sooner, 5th or 6th generation of gaming. This is when Nintendo was perceived as a child's company, and it was with the GameCube. The GameCube was viewed as a baby's toy. The launch of the console, a little tiny cube with a handle that was purple.
Exactly.
People would call it the Nintendo lunchbox.
The console was purple. That console was portable as fuck.
Yeah,
it was. It was a great. It was a
Yeah.
great console. 4 players. Couch co-op. It was designed to play with friends. Now, PlayStation 2 had 2 ports. Xbox, the original Xbox. I don't understand Xbox's marketing with their words. Like Xbox One. I always want to call the original Xbox One for some reason.
Yeah, I've seen a few of that.
It's so weird. 4 ports in the original Xbox, but Nintendo was putting out Mario and Kitty-like games. People were like, they just lost faith in Nintendo. PlayStation 2 was definitely geared towards adults. I could tell you that, more than 90% of the clientele who was purchasing PlayStation 2s and Xbox were people in their, mid to late 20s.
Yeah,
they had the money. Nobody was buying Nintendo.
People that wanted to play fighters or shooters or stuff
but a
like
parent
that.
coming in it's like, oh, what do you have for kids? You know, for my son who's like 12, 13. Well, we have the Nintendo GameCube, and it's really geared towards kids. And so kids end up with GameCubes, and adults end up with PS2s and Xboxes.
Wind Waker and Super Mario
Wind Waker,
Sunshine.
and yeah, exactly. Sunshine. That sounds really cool. Or Call of Duty. Sunshine or Call of Duty. What do you want to play? Well, I don't want to play that baby cookie game. Like, I want to play something good.
By the way, Mario Sunshine is really good.
It's an excellent game.
Sunshine
No doubt.
Waker
No,
it's I see what you mean. In a marketing side.
The marketing side.
Yeah.
So Nintendo was struggling in sales at this point in history, and they needed a way to come back, and I believe that's where Reggie stepped in and like, well, we got to go into the next system, which is going to be the Wii. And
rip.
I mean, even before the GameCube, the transition from the N64, which was still cartridge based.
And that was a tough one. That's where Nintendo really lost traction, was with the 64. Coming off the Super Nintendo, which was to this day legendary, and the 64, which has the smallest library in any of the Nintendo consoles, only superseded by the Virtual Boy.
I was going to say the Virtual Boy.
Only superseded by the Virtual Boy. But it was considered one of the more least successful consoles,
which makes me sad too, because I love the N64. Like that was like the heyday of my game.
I'm the opposite. See, so at the time the 64 came out, I believe was 1995, 96.
It was
96.
It was like
96.
Alongside the.
It was 96. It came after the PlayStation. So here we are. We get a taste of the next evolution of console gaming through CDs and seeing what CDs can do. And then we go back to cartridges. And I could tell you, as somebody who got a 64 on launch, and I had 2 games. Super Mario 64, which is incredible, and Wave Race, which is one of my favorite games. I love Wave Race. But the 6-month wait to get another game was excruciating.
Oh, that's rough too.
It was bad. And I think in that entire year, they released less than 5 games.
Yeah, because remember, we got ours as soon as Ocarina of Time came out.
My second video game gift was the PlayStation 1, which I absolutely loved. And I actually wanted the PlayStation 1 over the N64, and I think the reason why was because my cousins, who weren't really gamers, they were like, hey, come over here, we have Smash Brothers. And I was not into Smash Brothers because I didn't really like the controls.
Yeah.
And I was just like, I don't, and the character I wanted to play with most was Link, and he wasn't that great in the game. I mean, he had a lot of variety, but he just... Yeah, he was not great.
He was very heavy. He didn't have really good save. But
and I was just like, what? I'm not a huge fan of this game.
That being said, too, is like, especially with my house, we're always a Nintendo household. So like, we always got the Nintendo console that would come out. Because especially my brother, we came from like, let's say, a little more low income family too. So my brother was the one that really introduced me to gaming, because he would save all of his money. Like, he was the same way. He would try to sell things. He would be hustling, right, trying to get as much. And he bought a Super Nintendo. I remember we had the NES, we had the Super Nintendo, going straight into the N64 and everything. And like, I remember playing that as a kid, playing Ocarina of Time, playing Super Mario 64, seeing how deep those games are too. But then at the same time, like, going to my neighbors, like we were talking about beforehand, and seeing his PlayStation and being like, oh fuck. Like, you have the PS1 and playing games like Twisted Metal and like all these different games too when they were coming out.
I was gonna say though, with the PlayStation 1, you mentioned with the whole memory card thing. I remember when I first got it, I played Ape Escape, and I went so far into the game. I went super far into the game. It was so fun. And then I was like, you know what? I gotta end for the night. I can't save. I was just like...
Did you just leave the console on?
Did
you bite the bullet and just leave the console on? Or?
So, I started to do that with another game I had, which was Thousand Arms. But before, because I didn't know what a memory card was, like, it would ask me to save. And I'm like, what's a memory card? And so I thought I was saving. And so I was like, I'm going to test this out, turn it off, turn it back on, no save point. And I'm just like, I'm done with Ape Escape now.
Ape Escape was great.
It was super fun.
Yeah, Ape Escape was how Sony introduced the DualShock controllers. Like, I used to sell systems based off that. Metal Gear Solid and Gran Turismo. Those were my 3 games I used to use to sell PlayStation DualShock. So people ask, like, why do I need to upgrade my console? Let me show you the difference between the 1001 or 5501 that you have versus the 7501 and this new controller. And people are like, oh my gosh, it adds a level of realism that wasn't there before for video games. It's just another way to engross you. And again, this was the charm of FuncoLand, because we could try before
You'd be like, here, take the controller.
Try it out. And we had GX TVs. If anybody knows what a GX TV is, if you probably remember, GX TVs are these little 13-inch televisions that sat on the counters. And it had these big door-like speakers that would open up with a subwoofer. And this little 13-inch TV kicked. The volume on this thing was loud. The picture was decent, but that it was all about that sound, that immersing you in the experience. And I used to actually sell that TV. Guess what game I used to sell that TV with? Any idea? I used Einhander to actually sell that TV. Now that TV's MSRP was $349.99 back then, and we only ever had one or two, and I was one of the few people who actually sold both TVs.
Oh, nice. There we go.
Because I use Einhander. When you get to that first boss and you just hear all the machine sounds, the voice in the background, that music, just get that, fast-paced techno beat, and just the destruction. People are like, whoa, this is incredible.
Like, I need this.
Yeah. Yeah. It was the most economical way to put a sound system into your gaming without having to go out and buy, a $2,000 stereo, again, i.e. Circuit City. Technology was so different back then. Yeah. Like, if you wanted something, it was big, it was bulky, and it was expensive.
Yep.
The Samsung GX TV took away all that in an affordable, one-stop package.
Oh, man.
For sure. I was going to say, I was talking about how I wasn't really into the N64, but I would say I had like 2 games, or maybe probably more than that.
There were few games.
There were few. Like, I didn't completely hate the N64. I just
was it Pokemon Snap?
Yeah.
And,
no, it was GoldenEye and WWF. Which W?
No Mercy.
No Mercy. That's what it was. Because
Mercy.
My cousin used to run a 7-Eleven, and he used to have, when he would work the overnight shift, he would have like kids like my cousins and me and stuff like that. He would have us come overnight and help him, which is just like restocking. And
that's what I did at FuncoLand.
Yeah. And we would get,
it was different age people.
Yeah. I was gonna say we got the free Slurpees and we would play No Mercy in the back in the back room. It was awesome.
Yeah.
But
nice. There we go.
Yeah, I used to play No Mercy with my brother pretty religiously. By this time, I was living in my very first apartment. And me and him got so good at this game that neither one of us was going down. We'd have hour-plus matches consistently. So we had to bump up the stakes. Like, how can we? What's the payoff to playing this thing? Well, 2 guys in their early 20s living alone for the first time forever. Dishes become a big problem. Chores become a big problem because you don't have your parents there to make sure you're on top of stuff or to pick up after you if you were lucky enough to have that. And I could tell you, we'd cook and we think we were the most grown adults that ever adulted, and then it's like, well, who's gonna wash the dishes? Well, I don't want to wash the dishes, so we started playing for it.
Yeah, right.
Yeah,
there we go.
Loser, best 3 out of 5 has to do the dishes for a week. And that was brutal. Nice. That was brutal, and that was only after the dishes piled up.
Yeah, right. That's when you sit up.
Yeah, like, are we getting serious? Yeah, right. We're getting real serious, and me and my brother would go at it for hours on No Mercy. We had my brother loves doing the Creator Wrestler to this day, still loves the Creator Wrestler.
Oh, me too.
Every person we knew had their own wrestler.
Nice.
So if you came over, you were playing No Mercy as yourself.
I mean, that's one of the reasons why I still get WWE games, because I see what Creator Wrestler, I see how they do it, and I'm just like, that looks great. I'll buy this one.
Yes.
And I remember back in freaking WWE, was it WWE at the time when Raw came out? The game on Xbox.
Oh, that was WWF still.
Okay, WWF Raw. That was Goldberg on the cover.
It had, I believe, Triple H and Kane on the cover of that one.
Okay.
And then there was WWF Raw 2. There was WrestleMania 2001.
Oh, you know what? Maybe I'm thinking of Raw 2.
Yeah. Raw 2, I think, had Goldberg. Yeah. Or no, Goldberg wasn't in WWF at that time. No, he was in WCW. So you're thinking of WCW. I think Thunder Part 2.
I never had that one. Though,
yeah.
So I know I had Raw.
Those games were awful.
Yeah.
Those were awful.
You're like, you didn't miss out on anything.
You didn't miss out on anything. Yeah.
But well, we got to wrap things up right now. I just wanted to say it sucks that FuncoLand and software, etc., didn't get to stick around until Capcom versus SNK.
It actually did.
Oh, did?
It did.
Because I thought you were leading up to this gnarly Capcom versus
SNK.
No,
we actually, I'm sorry, I got derailed there. No, we eventually, it actually did come out. I imported it. Me and a good buddy of mine, we both got Japanese copies from the back of a GamePro magazine. Japan Video Games, which still exists to this day.
Okay.
Yeah, and we both got copies of Capcom versus SNK. We knew it was going to go down. It was Software Etc. versus FuncoLand, and the game was just okay. It was just okay. We eventually transitioned right back into Third Strike and King of Fighters.
Well, I feel like you guys had your go-tos already.
We did. Third Strike became a big thing. We took that everywhere.
I was gonna say Capcom versus SNK because it plays quite differently. So.
It does, but that was around the time that I was about ready to pack up and go because it was Millennium Fight 2001. So that was the year. Yeah, Capcom versus SNK. Yeah, good times.
Well, to wrap things up, thank you, FuncoLand, for being on the call with us. Customers, FuncoLand is the reason why stores look so good, and sorry to employees that work there, because he's probably also responsible for planograms.
Well, even then, too, it's like FuncoLand was the origins of me going into stores as a little kid and being like, oh my god.
I'm talking about the individual right now.
I'm talking about the individual. Oh, there you go. We are going to blame you for planograms. How about that?
Yeah. I'm just kidding. That's fine.
Your store was so amazing that, you raised the bar for all of us.
And it continues to this day.
Yeah.
All right, well, we're going to close up shop. Thanks, everyone, for listening. Thank you again, FuncoLand, for being with us. And, Distro and Tradehold, we're kicking you out.
Yeah, all right. Before the alarm company calls us, right?
There you go.